Michael the Syrian, also known as Michael the Great or Michael Syrus or Michael the Elder, to distinguish him from his nephew, was a patriarch of the Syriac Orthodox Church from 1166 to 1199. He is best known today as the author of the largest medieval Chronicle, which he composed in Syriac. Various other materials written in his own hand have survived. The life of Michael is recorded by Bar-Hebraeus. He was born California, 1126 in Melitene, the son of the priest Elia of the Quindazi family. His uncle, the monk Athanasius, became bishop of Anazarbus in Cilicia in 1136. At that period Melitene was part of the kingdom of the Turcoman-Danishman dynasty, and, when that realm was divided in two in 1142, it became the capital of one principality. In 1178 it became part of the Sultanate of Rum. The Jacobite monastery of Marbar Salma was close to the town, and had been the patriarchal seat since the 11th century. As a child, Michael entered the service of the monastery, and became archimandrite before the age of 30. He made various improvements to the abbey fabric, including improving the water supply and the defenses against raiders. On the 18th of October 1166 he was elected Patriarch of the Jacobite Church, and consecrated in the presence of 28 bishops. In 1168 he made a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, and then stayed for a year at Antioch. Both towns were at the time part of the Latin Crusader states, and Michael established excellent relations with the Crusader lords, especially with Amaury de Nesle, Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem. Returning to the monastery of Marbar Salma in the summer of 1169, he held a synod and attempted to reform the church, then tainted with simony. The Byzantine Emperor Manuel I Komnenos made approaches to him to negotiate a reunion of the churches. But Michael did not trust the Greeks. He refused to go to Constantinople when invited by the emperor, and even refused twice, in 1170 and 1172, to meet his envoy Theoranus, instead sending as his own representative Bishop John of Kaisaum and then his disciple Theodore Barwarborn. In 3 successive letters to the emperor, he replied with a simple statement of the Miaphysite Creed of the Jacobites. Around 1174 Michael had to contend with a revolt by a party of bishops. He himself was twice arrested at the instigation of the dissident bishops, so he says, once by the servants of the prefect of Mardan and the second time by those of the emir of Mosul. Also the monks of Bar Salma rebelled against him in 1171 and 1176. Between 1178 and 1180 he resided again in the Crusader states, at Antioch and Jerusalem. He was invited by Pope Alexander III to attend the Third Council of the Lateran, but declined. However, he did participate by letter, writing a long treatise on the Albigensians, based on the information he had been given. In 1180 his former pupil Theodore Barwarborn had himself elected Patriarch at Amida under the name of John by certain malcontent bishops, beginning a schism which lasted for 13 years. Michael took energetic action, got hold of the anti-patriarch and locked him up at Bar Salma and formally deposed him. Some of monks allowed Ibn Warborn to escape, who fled to Damascus and tried in vain to appeal to Saladin. He then went to Jerusalem, and, after the fall of the city in 1187, went to Rumkal with the Armenian Catholicos Gregory IV, who allowed him to obtain official recognition from Prince Leo II of Armenian Minor. Theodore had many supporters, and the schism did not end until the death of Theodore in the summer of 1193. According to Bar-Hebraeus, Theodore could write and speak in Syriac. Greek, Armenian and Arabic, and composed a statement of his case against Michael in Arabic. In 1182, Michael received the Sultan Kilay Arslan II at Melitene, and held cordial talks with him. He died at the monastery of Barsauma on 7 November 1199 at the age of 63, having been patriarch for 33 years. His nephew, Michael the Younger, known as Yashti Safedarana or Big Lips, became anti-patriarch at Melitene from 1199 to 1215, in opposition to Athanasius IX and then John XIV. Works. Michael was a profuse author. He wrote works on the liturgy, on the doctrine of the Jacobite Church, and on canon law. Numerous sermons have also survived, mostly unpublished, but he is best known for the World Chronicle that he composed, the longest and richest surviving chronicle in the Syriac language. The Chronicle. This chronicle runs from creation up to Michael's own times. It uses earlier ecclesiastical histories now lost. For instance, its coverage of the late antique period relies mainly upon Dionysius of Telmara. It includes a version of the so-called Testimonium Flavianum. The work is extant in a single manuscript written in 1598 in Syriac in a Certo hand. This was copied from an earlier manuscript, itself copied from Michael's autograph. The manuscript is today held in a locked box in a church in Aleppo and not accessible to scholarship. However, the French scholar Jean-Baptiste Chabot arranged for a copy to be made by hand in 1888 and published a photographic reproduction in 4 volumes, with a French translation, in 2009. The facsimile of Edison Aleppo Codex was published by Gorges Press in the first volume of a series on the Chronicle of Michael the Great. An abbreviated Armenian translation also exists, from which Victor Longlou published a French translation in 1868. This alone preserves the preface of the work. A shorter Armenian version also exists which has not been published. A Garsuni version is also extant in British Library Ms. Orient 4402, and an Arabic version beginning with Book 5 exists in a Vatican manuscript. As secondary witnesses, Bar Hebraeus, Pseudo-Jacob, and Mary Bar the Chaldean all rely upon Michael's work. Points of interest. His work has been used by NASA scientists because of his record of climatic changes, now known to be linked to volcano eruptions. He records that in 536 AD, the sun became dark and its darkness lasted for 18 months. Each day it shone for about 4 hours, and still this light was only a feeble shadow. Everyone declared that the sun would never recover its full light. The fruits did not ripen and the wine tasted like sour grapes. And in 626 AD, in the year AD 626, the light of half the sphere of the sun disappeared, and there was darkness from October to June. As a result, people said that the sphere of the sun would never be restored to its original state. He is a contemporary source from the Latin Crusader states, and records the tolerance and liberalism of the Catholic Franks towards the Miaphysites. The pontiffs of our Jacobite Church lived in the middle of them without being persecuted or molested. In Palestine, as in Syria, they never raised any difficulty on account of the faith, nor insisted on a single formula for all the peoples and all the languages of the Christians, but they considered as Christian everyone who venerated the cross without inquiry or cross-examination. He also praises the Templars and Hospitallers to his own people. When the Templars or Hospitallers have to occupy a military post and hold it to the death, they die doing so. When a brother dies, they feed the poor on his behalf for 40 days, and give lodgings to 40 people. They consider those who die in combat as martyrs. They distribute to the poor a 10th part of the food and drink. Every time they bake bread in one of the houses, they reserve a 10th part for the poor. In spite of the great riches, they are charitable to all who venerate the cross. They founded everywhere hospitals, serving and helping strangers who had fallen sick. He provides an indication of the writer's perspective about origins of multiple nations and the reverence of his own Aramaean origins that is heavily influenced by his Edessian schooling. With the help of God we write down the memory of the kingdoms which belong in the past to our Aramaean people, that is, sons of Aram, who are called Syrioi, this people from Syria.